Hello everybody, it's Jeff from Close to Home in Glastonbury, and I'm here to present the February block for the Make Yourself at Home series. I've been really excited seeing all the choices you've all made for fabrics for the first block and for the blocks to come, and I'm really excited to see what you come up with. Just as a reminder, we're still taking in for pictures Marsha's block of the month, the paisley patch from last year, so you have until April 6th to bring those into the store to get photographed to be eligible for the contest. And stay tuned in March for more details on how you'll be able to vote for your favorite, and the winner will get a special prize. So, without any further ado, let's move on to the February block. So here we have our next block. This is called Chisholm Trail. As you know, all of the blocks this year are going to be named after places in the United States. The Chisholm Trail was a cattle driving trail. Started in the mid to late 1800s. It's a trail that runs cattle from Texas to Kansas. And if you look here, this is the original pattern that it's based on from the Kansas City Star. Now, in the original pattern, it uses only half square triangles, but we're going to mix that up. On the edges here, we're going to make two of those half square triangles into a flying goose block instead. So you're going to make or cut from your background fabric two squares that are 3.5 by 3.5. From your background fabric, you're also going to cut three 4 by 4 inch squares that we're going to use for our half square triangles. And we're going to also pair those with two of our accent color fabric that are 4 by 4 and one of our focus fabric, the tourmaline, that are 4 by 4. You're going to put those half square triangles together in the same exact way that we did last month. So you take your 4 by 4 inch squares, you're going to mark a line down the middle, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side of that line, cut down the middle, and trim those down to 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares. So that pretty much tells you how you're going to use all of these half square triangles and these squares. But I wanted to spend a little bit of extra time talking about the flying geese blocks, because we're going to be doing those flying geese blocks 4 at a time. Here I'm going to use some sample fabrics to show you how to do the flying geese 4 at a time. So this one here is actually going to be your accent color. It's going to be a 7.25 by a 7.25 inch square, and that's going to be our big triangle goose there in the middle. And you're also going to cut from the tourmaline fabric that we give you 4 3 7/8 inch squares. So these are 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. On the wrong side of the fabric, I have marked a line from corner to corner, and we're going to start by taking the tourmaline fabric and we're going to pair it up just like this. So we have one in one corner and the other one is going to overlap just like that in the other corner. And just like we did with our half square triangles, we are going to sew a line 1/4 inch on either side of this marked line, and we're going to cut on that marked line. So I'm going to go do that and I'll meet you back here. Before I continue, I just wanted to talk about diagonal seam tape from Cluck Cluck Sew. Now, I've been marking all of my half square triangles or the 4 at a time flying geese from corner to corner, but if you get this product, the diagonal seam tape, then you do not have to mark. So if I wanted to, we could pretend that this mark isn't even here, and if I wanted to sew on either side of the center line a 1/4 inch seam, I would just line up my corner with this black piece, and I know that this red is my center line, and just run that through the sewing machine just like this, and it would be sewing a 1/4 inch on that side, and then I could do the same thing with the other side and sew it along that side. And that way, you would be able to line up on both sides. You wouldn't even have to mark, and this is especially good when you have a lot of things to mark, and this is completely removable, this tape, from your table, and it's just a great product. It's also great if you ever need to sew on the center line. You can just use the red line instead. But for our purposes, we're using the 1/4 inch on either side. A great product, and if you haven't tried it, I think you should check it out. After I've sewn my 1/4 inch seam on either side of the center line, I've got a piece that looks like this, and I am going to iron these just like this, so I got a spot, so it looks like the one here on the right. And from here, I'm now going to take another piece of my 3 7/8 inch squares that are marked, put it in the other corner, and again do the same thing. I'm going to sew on a 1/4 inch on either side of that center line. I'm going to do that to both of these, and I'll bring you back here. Now that I've sewn my 1/4 inch here on either side of my center line, I'm going to cut down the middle there, and then I'm going to iron these pieces up, and in the end you'll end up with 4 of our flying geese blocks. Now I can also trim down all these dog ears so that I don't have any extra bulk, just trim those down. One other thing to note is that these are going to be the finished size. You should not have to trim these down after you are done sewing. They are going to be 3.5 by 6.5 when they are done. Now you should have all the components to your block all set. You'll start by constructing this center 4 patch here. So your 2 half square triangles with the background and the tourmaline are going to go with your 2 squares just like that. So you'll sew those together and then sew that patch together. And then you're going to sew in rows. So the flying geese block on the top is going to get attached to these 2 half square triangles. Your 4 patch is going to get attached to the sides of these 2 flying geese, and then the same as the top on the bottom with the flying geese and the 2 half square triangles. If you're making your house, you will then add your house piece to the side and to the top, and then you are done for another month. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you on March 29th for the next block.